Season 2 of Shadow and Bone is finally here, and we're now back in Ravka where Alina is fighting to unite it and to take down Kirigan, who managed to survive the Volcras, with Kirigan looking to plunge the world into darkness by expanding his fold. The main thing that we saw in this season was Alina and the group trying to stop him, with two main plots to break down in this season, with them coming together and merging at the end. Let's recap, break down, and explain all that there was to take away from this latest season. So let's get into it. Here is Shadow and Bone Season 2 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. As we embarked onto the final episode, we saw that Kirigan was successful in getting the fold to increase its border and was closing in on Alina and the allies in order to claim her and the surrounding land. The shadow monsters that he had with him was something that proved to be too much of a threat for everybody, and they were impenetrable with any object or power, other than the Genya, which we saw Kaz and the rest of the crows manage to retrieve and bring to the battle at just about the right time. We found out that Mal was the missing amplifier that was needed in order to be able to destroy the fold. He was the Firebird that Alina and himself were seeking out. In the past, he was able to detect frequencies that alerted him to amplifier locations, such as the Stag and the Sea Whip. But he wasn't able to detect the Firebird due to it being within himself. This was the reason why he always ended up right back alongside Alina all throughout his life, and where he walked into that specific orphanage all of those years ago when they first met, because he was drawn to her and the power that she held. This meant that Mal had to die in order for the amplification to happen and for Ravka to be saved. We saw Alina kill Mal, and with all of the love and care that she had for him, it caused her powers to be at the strongest that they'd ever been, and she tore down the fold, rendering the darkness no more. However, the shadow monsters were still present because they came from Kirigan, and he was still alive at that point. Kirigan was slowly dying throughout the entirety of this season, so there was no way that he was going to survive anyway. However, with the fold, the very thing that he created many years ago being destroyed, we saw him give a speech to Alina before he was killed. And this was about how that without him, there would be no counterbalance to the light that Alina emitted, and how the darkness will eventually come for her. Especially with us finding out that the shadow monsters didn't even listen to Kirigan, and that they acted on their own, meaning that the darkness was fully capable of being able to find a way. This was something that we did actually see occur right at the end of the season in the final scene, with Alina saying that she would be able to stop the darkness if it ever did arise. In a moment of panic at the end, when a Fjordan citizen interrupted the coronation of Nikolai and took Gerda Parum, which amplified Agisha's powers, Alina emitted her powers in self-defense, and much to everybody's surprise, darkness came out. With a haunting smile being the final thing that we saw of her, it's maybe alluding to the fact that she could well have the darkness present within her, and she may not have even known about it. With Nikolai seeing the darkness in his reflection, and it also growing where he was wounded by the shadow monster, it was also within him too, which is showing that there's a bleak outlook for the rest of Ravka if at the front leading the way are two people that are now full of darkness. Alina may have all of these plans of bettering the place, but if there is darkness within her, then it will be hard to control it, as it's uncontrollable as we saw with Kirigan. Let's discuss Mal. Mal's ending was one thing that I thought was quite interesting. We saw that he was revealed to be part of the same bloodline as Kirigan, and that he was the missing amplifier that Alina and himself were seeking out, which put a lot of importance on his shoulders. However, we saw that after he was killed and after Alina had destroyed the fold, Alina then went on to use Merzost, a power that is extremely powerful and comes with consequences. It essentially enables an individual to bring a life back from death, which is something that we saw Alina use on Mal. But with its use, it drains something from the person who's utilized it. This to me could be the reason as to why Alina's powers were full of darkness at the end, because the light inside of her had been drained away and given up as a compromise. With Mal being an individual who was infatuated with Alina before, I was quite shocked to see that he was prepared to part ways with her at the end and go off to live a life as a privateer and take on the Sturmhond name. The lack of purpose was something that was definitely felt by him after coming back from the dead, because originally he felt as though his purpose was to sacrifice himself in order to allow Alina to save the world. So in coming back, he just had no direction, hence why we saw him going off as a privateer. He was even leading a ship that was heading in the direction of a slaver's ship, which could be connected to Inej's story that we saw developing and being referenced at the end when Kaz gave her a piece of paper with some information on. The Crows. The Crows are a set of characters that are extremely interesting to follow in this show. Led by Kaz, we saw all of the group battle with demons from their past in order to overcome them and hope to get a better future. For example, Kaz was on a mission of revenge where he wanted to avenge his brother Geordie's death by taking out Pekka Rollins. This was something that he did successfully do, but it wasn't enough to shake the survival guilt out of his mind, meaning that he ultimately sacrificed a relationship and a future with Inej because he wasn't able to let his guard down and be with her in the way that she needed him to be. We saw Jesper coming to terms with the fact that he was a Durast and stopped hiding away from the fact that he had these incredible abilities that he could utilize, and utilize them in a way to save the people that he loved, rather than mourning the fact that his mother used her powers and it caused her death, so he was fully comfortable with being who he was. We also saw him spark up a relationship with Wyland too. Nina went off with a letter of pardon to the prison where Matthias was being kept. However, the prison officer didn't acknowledge the letter, and it meant that in the battle ring, Rollins messed him around and planned on getting Matthias to fight wolves instead of people. However, in a panicked moment as Nina was told to get taken out, the letter of pardon was trampled all over the floor, meaning that Matthias will most likely never get out of there, despite being so close. The meaning of the bee. Within the final episode of the show, as they were getting rid of Kirigan, we saw that a bee flew over onto Zoya's shoulder before she shrugged it away. I thought this was a particularly interesting moment that occurred. It looked a bit random, but random enough to have meaning behind it. This could be referencing Sancta Elisabetta, a saint that was known as the patron saint of gardeners. Elisabetta was able to control bees and essentially use them as a weapon, which is something that maybe Zoya has the ability to do, and we could potentially see in the next season of the show if it gets explored. I thought season 2 of the show was pretty good. It was a very well fleshed out story and had good visuals, performances, pacing and delivery. I was a bit disappointed that Alina and Mal weren't together at the end, because it kind of felt like the whole show was building towards that, but I can look past it, because I do feel as though their paths will cross again. With the Fjordans planning on weaponizing Jurdaparum, and with the Fold no longer splitting the world in two, I think we're going to see a season 3 that opens up the world and exposes Ravka to more threats than just Kirigan. I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen next and if Alina will be fully immersed within darkness. I hope not, because she is the light of Ravka and is what saved it from the very thing that has now taken over her. So, there you have it. Shadow and Bone Season 2 Ending Explained. If you want to see more videos such as Endings Explained, theories and predictions and character breakdowns, then click on the I button, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @brainpilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What did you think of Season 2? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.